Hello, and welcome to Sanlando Sound Waves. I'm Jason Jankowski, and this is week 19, day 92. And today we are reading Joshua chapter 21, verse 43 through 45. So the Lord gave Israel all the land he had sworn to give their ancestors, and they took possession of it and settled there. The Lord gave them rest on every side, just as he had sworn to their ancestors. Not one of their enemies withstood them. The Lord gave all their enemies into their hands. Not one of all the Lord's good promises to Israel failed. Everyone was fulfilled. And now let's read and reflect on our 7 arrows. What does this passage say? What did this passage mean to its original audience? What does this passage tell us about God? What does this passage tell us about man? What does this passage demand of me? How does this passage change the way I relate to people? What does this passage prompt me to pray to God? Now let's read a brief devotional about this passage from our book, The 7 Arrows. These 3 simple verses serve to summarize so much of what we have read to this point. God made promises to his people, and he was faithful to see these promises through to completion. Nothing he promised failed to happen. As the sun rose each morning and the people woke up preparing for a new day, they would see the land before them and be reminded of the steadfast love of God. Their days were intended to be filled with rest. Be careful here. When we think of rest, we often think of a long nap on the couch or sleeping in on a Saturday morning. This is not what God had in mind. The people would still engage in good, meaningful work in the land. Like Adam and Eve in the garden, the blessing of God included meaningful work for his people. For Israel, rest meant that they would be free to enjoy God's blessings, live in peace with their neighbors, and be free to spend their lives serving God's purposes. Thanks for joining us. We hope to see you again tomorrow.